You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You're tapped in, so let's get right to it. As of April 2026, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and U.S. President Donald Trump are at odds, primarily due to sharp disagreements over the Iran war. Okay, Merz publicly criticized the Trump administration's strategy, claiming the U.S. was being humiliated in negotiations by Iran, prompting Trump to retort that Merz doesn't know what he's talking about, and then threatened to reduce U.S. troops in Germany. Now, we see that as an issue. So say, for instance, Trump does go and do a troop withdrawal in Germany. That would not only affect Germany in some respects in terms of their economy, but it would also be a slight or slap in the face of the NATO alliance. That would start this domino effect. Then Trump would continue probably to say, okay, let's remove some troops from Italy as well as for France. Or the NATO alliance could say, you know what, he done this to Germany, to one of our allies. So we might as well go on and, start sending these American troops back to the United States. So in any respect, again, here goes Donald Trump showing that he doesn't have a strategy and that he's just talking for the sake of talking. That bully mentality or that threatening mentality that he exhibits quite often. The Iran war strategy, though, in terms of what Merz said about it in his criticism of it, it did start the conflict between he and Trump. But Merz was just saying basically, hey, end the conflict, find an end to the Iran war, and if not, then you are continuing down a road that is flawed. It kind of makes sense. Trump, though, again, this is Trump, vintage Trump. He fired back at Merz, accusing him of thinking it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Now, where the heck came into the conversation, I'm not sure, but that seems to be the talking point between the United States president, its administration, and the government, Republican and Democrat, as well as the Israeli regime. That's the first thing they throw at you. We got to stop them from having a nuclear weapon. Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. They're not even trying to make a nuclear weapon. All right. It seems as though you guys, with what you're doing over in Iran, would precipitate or, have someone to want to start thinking about creating a nuclear weapon because of all these wars and stuff. Anyway, Trump did threaten to withdraw troops from Germany, in response to the friction. He said, hey, man, I'm going to reduce U.S. troops presence in Germany. This strained relationship, despite efforts to maintain a good working relationship, this public spat has caused significant tension between the two leaders. And that is because there are differing priorities. Merz, he's faced pressure for appearing too compliant with Trump, particularly on issues regarding NATO and Russia. So that's part of the issue with the German politicians or Germany's government, but again, despite the heated exchange, Merz has attempted to manage the situation by stating his personal relationship with Trump remains good and that the transatlantic bond is crucial. But again, you have to take into account that Merz, he went there to say something other than what we're being told by the media. I think it has more to do with the economy, that the faltering or, the declining economy of Germany, because it is a fact that the German economy is currently being significantly impacted by the Iran war. Now, you place that impact of the Iran war against the backdrop of the impact of the Russian and Ukraine war. Both wars have affected Germany greatly economically. It has done something to their economy. For instance, there's no more cheap gas coming from Russia to Germany. Before 2022, I think it was, Germany relied on Russia for roughly half of its natural gas. The abrupt loss of these imports led to a 3 to 4-fold increase in energy costs at its peak in Germany. All right. So, you have to place these things in perspective in terms of Iran, because it is the latest war that is affecting Germany. they have a downgraded growth. The German government, excuse me, has halved its 2026 GDP growth forecast from 1.0% to just 0.5%. Inflation surge also is an issue over there. Energy costs jumped over 10% year on year in April 2026, pushing the national inflation rate to 2.9% in Germany, its highest level in over 2 years. So yeah, they have issues. They have issues with what is taking place in the Middle East or because of the United States waging war alongside Israel against Iran. This is affecting Germany in a real way, and they have to say something about it. So I always saw MERZ as this kind of guy who was going to say what he meant and meant what he said. And he's getting backlash from not just his government, but the people of Germany in terms of not being more stern with Donald Trump and his antics. And that's one of the reasons I think he went to the White House to have a sit down with Donald Trump. Now, that being said, I do have a clip I want to bring in. You guys need to see this, hear this from the horse's mouth. Donald Trump, as well as Frederick Merz, speaking about these issues. And again, this is going to create more friction. I can see now that Donald Trump, the way his mind works, Donald Trump will very shortly do something to antagonize Germany even more. And by way of that, he's going to antagonize the NATO alliance as well. All right, so that's it. Let me drop this clip for you guys. It's very informative. You'll be able to get a little something from it. Before I do, please like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to TAP, the Art of Political Discourse. You guys' participation and viewership, like we always say here, and we mean it, is greatly appreciated. And also continue to help us reach that mark of 5,000 subscribers for this channel. All right, now that being said, let's get to this clip. It's courtesy of Fox News, and here we go.
President Trump is now threatening to pull U.S. troops out of Germany as NATO nations continue to fall short on helping with Iran. It comes as Iran's supreme leader issues new threats against the United States. Senior White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich joins us now with the latest. Hey, Jackie.
Before that, so, NATO in general are against this war because it is affecting, not just NATO allies, but the EU. It's impacting the world on a whole. It's impacting everyone. And for a lot of reasons, a lot of these countries, these governments don't see why they went in there to begin with. There was nothing going on. In spite of what the Trump administration is saying and those media outlets that back what he says or his administration says, the fact of the matter is most of these countries, the EU or NATO allies and the rest of the world, did not understand why the United States and Israel attacked Iran. There was no need to do that. So there's a bigger play jumping off or going on here that we don't really understand just yet. Maybe we'll get a little insight from this reporter.
Good morning, Ainsley. More than 1/5 of U.S. active duty troops that are based overseas are based in Germany. And now the president is threatening a drawdown after sparring with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz over Iran. He posted this: the United States is studying and reviewing a possible reduction of troops in Germany with a determination to be made over the next short period of time. Thank you for your attention to this matter. His frustration bubbled over on Tuesday when he posted, the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. He doesn't know what he's talking about. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, the whole world would be held hostage. I'm doing something with Iran right now that other nations or presidents should have done long ago. No.
Now, here's the thing about that. And a lot of people are starting to think this. It would probably have been better if Iran did have a nuclear weapon. Because the thinking is that if they had a nuclear weapon, we wouldn't be in this position now. And no, Iran would not fire the nuclear weapon, but it would be an equalizer. It would be a stabilizer in the region. And that stabilization the nuclear weapon as a stabilizer would curtail some of the things that the Israeli regime has been doing in the Middle East for a very, very long time. When people get to talking about Palestinians, Hamas, Hezbollah, Lebanon, Gaza, the Middle East, and terrorists, they neglect or they are not told or they do not understand that the greatest terror, the biggest terror in the area has been Israel for decades. A lot of this stuff began, it all started because of Israel's colonization of the land they call Israel now. And not only that, but the land grab that proceeded after the fact in terms of taking more land from Palestinians than what was agreed upon them having in terms of returning to their so-called homeland. So the terrorism started with Israel, but somehow, some way, the tables were turned. United States and Israel has gotten mostly everyone around the world to call those Arabs, Palestinians, Lebanese or whatever, terrorists. So we think that, again, if Iran had a nuclear weapon, it would be an equalizer. Then you would see Israel, United States, and everybody else come to the bargaining table, because no one wants to fire off them. The only ones that ever did it or wanted to do it was the United States, but no one really wants to create a nuclear holocaust, and in a region where most of the world's fuel come from, so it doesn't make sense. But that is the narrative. And we think here at TAP that it's an incorrect narrative. There's a lot of propaganda.
Wonder Germany is doing so poorly, both economically and otherwise.
We just spoke about the effects of Germany's economy, why they're doing bad because of these wars. And the coldest part about that, or what should be understood by everyone, is that if Germany is feeling this effect, then other countries will begin to feel these effects as well. The economy will drop for a lot of countries because of these two wars that are taking place. So you can blame it on the wars. It's not that Germany does not know how to govern. It's the fact that Germany does not have natural resources like liquid gas, that they can produce, for themselves. They have to buy it from other countries, and these countries are at war. So it puts Germany at a disadvantage. It affects its economy.
This was all in response to what MERZ said. MERZ, in his own words, said this.
Keine Strategie.
The Americans clearly have no strategy. An entire nation is being humiliated by the Iranian state leadership, especially by these so-called Revolutionary Guards.
The chancellor is trying to smooth things.
And why would that be upsetting to anyone with some sense? Everyone says it. United States politicians said, the American people said, what's your strategy? You just went and bombed these people with no strategy. You campaigned, or your campaign was ran saying there'll be no more forever wars. I won't start wars. And yet here you are involved in a war that's going to bog down or have America involved in a region for, years to come. Just got out of a war, just left a country that you were in for 20 years behind a war. And here you are initiating another war that will have the country involved in this war for another 10, 15, 20 years. That's what it seems like.
Things over, saying his relationship with President Trump remains good. He's just been clear about his doubts on the war since the beginning. He added that Germany must live up to its leading role militarily in Europe. The president says all this could go away if Iran would cry uncle. And
see that type of behavior right there. Donald Trump is a thug. He's a thug. He's a terrorist. They all go away if Iran just cries uncle. Come on. Now, we're talking about a country that has a rich history, an ancient history. We're talking about a country in modern times that, its people are very intelligent, could contribute a great deal to the world. But you got a guy like Donald Trump disparaging, not just the leadership, but the people in the country. You've said a lot worse, than, hey, if they cry uncle, then, we'll let up on them. This is that bully mentality. It's not good.
Agreed to end their nuclear program. A written statement from the Supreme Leader this morning, though, says Iran is not backing down, vowing to protect its nuclear program as a national asset, and saying, quote, the only place Americans belong in the Persian Gulf is at the bottom of the waters, as the Strait of Hormuz remains in Tehran's chokehold.
Now, here's the thing, though, right quick. You have to wonder what's really going on. So it went from they can't have a nuclear weapon to now they can't even have nuclear capabilities. And everyone knows in order to run a country, to keep, the energy up, the lights on, things of that nature, you need nuclear power. Most modernized countries, well, the West have it or have them, nuclear facilities that power their cities, their towns, their cities, their country. Why would you go from, okay, no nuclear weapons to no nuclear capability? That doesn't make sense. There's something else going on.
President Trump has softened his tone with other NATO allies like the UK after he met with the royal family, King Charles and Queen Camilla, this week. But he's also remained vocal about his angst over Prime Minister Keir Starmer's resistance to helping the U.S. in this war. Today, the president's going to be briefed on potential military action plans by the CENTCOM commander. But according to reports, he's already expressed a preference for an extended naval blockade, saying that it is more effective at degrading Iran's oil revenue and fracturing what's left of the regime.
Now, also, Keir Starmer, UK's prime minister, he's mad at, the West, the EU or NATO allies for not joining a war that they don't see as a war necessary, of having. But Trump said maybe a month or so ago, we don't need them anyway. We got this. If that's the case, then why are you upset because they won't participate? Trump says a lot of things that doesn't make sense. One of the things that doesn't make sense is Trump saying, we've won. If you've won, then why are you still there? If you've won, why do you then need your European allies, the West, to come in and help you with the war you've already won? None of it makes sense.
Ainsley.
Okay, thank you, Jackie.
None of it makes sense. Yeah, so there that is. And I tell you, just in terms of what the Trump administration is doing, it seems that the Trump administration, they're digging themselves a hole. They're digging themselves a hole. And in that hole, is a whole lot of muck and mire. They won't be able to get out of it no time soon if they stay on course or stay in that hole. If they don't hurry up and get out of that hole, they're going to bury themselves in it. And this is something that the Western allies, the NATO allies also see occurring. This is why they're not getting involved. Very smart of them. Very smart of them. So what do you think about this? Is Trump making any sense? Is it wise to threaten to remove troops from Germany just because Germany does not want to go to war or be in a war that makes no sense? And double down, I'd like to ask, would it make sense or does it make sense to be at odds with the UK as well? The UK has the same stance as well as Italy, as well as France, as well as pretty much all of the Western countries. They want no parts of this. That should tell Donald Trump something, don't you think? Let us know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And please like, share, follow, and subscribe to Tapped. We appreciate your presence. All right. Have a great day.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.